What's happening, gang? It's your boy Retro back again with another reaction video. Yeah. Today we got another huge update. Now you guys can probably already tell that it is going down. Just by that title alone, you guys are definitely gonna want to check this one out. So we got Governor Tim Walz's fraud empire coming crashing down after brand new evidence just sealed the deal, guys. I'm excited to get into this one, so we're not straight into it. All I ask that you please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and without further ado, let's hop straight into the scoop. Check this one out.
The great people of Minnesota, a state that was once known as the land of 10,000 lakes, has been turned into the land of 10,000 Somali schemes because of their governor. And don't forget, this is a guy who was at the top of the Democrat Party's ticket, the number 2. He was Kamala Harris's running mate just about a year ago until President Trump crushed them last November. And it was in large part because the president was calling out this fraud. And so this has been a day one priority for the Trump administration, Jesse. The Department of Justice has convicted and prosecuted nearly 100 defendants in Minnesota. And because of these new details and this new reporting that has come to light, this is a all hands on deck across the entire government effort. We are surging resources. You saw today the Department of Homeland Security announced we have nearly 2,000 agents from the Homeland Security Investigations Team. The FBI is on the ground, and we're freezing money. HHS cut off funding for child care centers and for daycares. USDA Secretary Rollins has been asking Governor Walz to see the recipients of SNAP in his state. So this is all hands on deck. Rest assured, it's a top priority for President Trump. And he believes that Governor Walz is criminally liable. And I think the Department of Justice is going to find out.
All right, folks, the Walz are quickly closing in on that Governor Tim Walz and the widespread fraud that we've seen discovered throughout his state. So we now have a new evidence that is linking him directly to it. Now President Donald Trump is saying as well that he is probably in on it. There is no other way around it. And I want you guys to remember back when Tim Walz said it out of his own mouth that he is the one that's accountable. He's the one that should be charged for this.
State, there's full accountability for everybody because I buck stops with me. I'm accountable for this. And because of that accountability, I'm not running for office again. But I have a year to continue to improve on a record that I think will stand up against anybody's, a record that has made Minnesota better, a record that makes people want to come here, and a record that has respected not only the dignity of people, but the idea of rule of law.
Come on now, you guys, straight from the horse's mouth. Tim Walz says the buck stops right here with me. I am no longer running for re-election as Minnesota's governor because of what has happened, what's transpired, and really what he means to say, a translation of all that into a layman's term. He's saying that he is the one that is going to go down. If he continues to run for re-election, he already knows it's going to, screw up his campaign royally because of all the evidence. There's an overwhelming amount of evidence that is coming out, and there's way more to come. And now it turns out it may not be so tough to charge Tim Walz. We now have a fraud participant sharing the details that he knew all along. Governor Tim Walz, he was in on it.
So in Minnesota, the convicted ringleader of one of the state's biggest fraud schemes is speaking to Fox News from behind bars. Now, she believes that the scam was no surprise to local Democratic leaders, and she's naming names. She spoke to Alexis McAdams. Hi, Alexis.
Hey, Dana. Yeah, so everywhere you look in the state of Minnesota, right, there seems to be another fraud scam. So this one involves Amy Bach. She's a Minnesota woman convicted of fraud for taking taxpayer money that was meant to feed hungry kids. But listen to this. Bach tells me the real issue here is the state of Minnesota, which she says kept giving scammers your taxpayer money even after they were flagged as fraudsters.
I have to believe that the governor's office and Keith Ellison's office were aware of this. They've said they were involved in helping the FBI. They've said they were made aware, but apparently I'm scary, so they couldn't do anything.
So Bach ran this nonprofit called Feeding Our Future. You might have heard of it. It was one of dozens convicted in this $250 million scam. You can see her mugshot there. Prosecutors say this group set up sham restaurants. They pretended they were making these meals. They got paid by the state for those meals, but they just pocketed the cash. Bach, who's looking at 30 years behind bars, tells me the state signed off on those businesses, not her.
It all went through a process. They were all approved. They were all paid by the state, yet all the fingers are being pointed at me.
And it's not just Bach. Whistleblowers told a congressional committee Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison there ignored warnings for years as millions of dollars and millions were stolen on their watch. Congress is investigating a long list of massive fraud schemes in the state. It's hard to keep up. Prosecutors say it's led to at least $9 billion in fraud, Dana, and counting. Congress also asking why the Attorney General there would meet with a group of Somali fraudsters, which were under FBI investigation in 2021. The group can be heard in an audio clip given to us by Bach's lawyer offering to donate to his campaign if he can help them get their funding flowing again. Ellison denies any wrongdoing here. He slammed Bach in a statement to Fox, calling her a liar and manipulator, adding now she's on a media tour to deflect her guilt onto others instead of finally taking responsibility for this fraud scheme that she ran. So we reached out to Governor Walz too, Dana. He didn't get back to us. House Republicans say it's just getting started. They want to subpoena Walz and Ellison because they say they're responsible for ripping off American taxpayers.
Wow, folks, that's 2 subpoenas in just 1 week coming for Governor Tim Walz and that Attorney General Keith Ellison. That's got to be some sort of record. Now we got one of the convicted fraudsters in the Feeding Our Future scam coming out saying the true culprits behind the fraud scandals are Tim Walz and Keith Ellison. Also saying that she finds it very hard to believe that Governor Tim Walz's office and Keith Ellison's office weren't aware of this. They had to have known something. How we got Governor Walz's daughter, Hope Walz, doing a bit of damage control in her latest interview, claiming that Tim Walz dropped out of the Minnesota race for governor to get a little bit of the heat off the state of Minnesota. I'm not sure that's going to happen until all the problems are solved.
Dad would say part of the decision he decided to step away from the race was to kind of get that target off of Minnesota. I think he believes if he's not in the race, there's nothing, they have nothing else. Because he has that, national profile. Trump just hates him for some reason. I think it's because he's everything Trump will never be. So there's that. And I think without him in the race or trying to, continue governing the state past next year, I think he thinks that kind of the target will be off.
I guess that Trump derangement syndrome truly runs through the families. We have the governor's daughter, Hope Walz, saying that Tim Walz only dropped out of the re-election for governor of Minnesota because he did not want the heat on his state. It just doesn't make sense, though. Is it that he doesn't want the heat on his state, or he wants the heat to get off of his back? Because it seems it's more so on him than it is on the state right now. And Governor Tim Walz knows this. He knows that he's in hot water and there's no way around this. And I want to flip over to something very interesting that I found. It actually turns out that Minnesota state officials, those are supposed to be overseeing the finances that led to the fraud, said that they did not have the tools to hold agencies accountable for fraud. You guys have to see this one right here. It actually blew my mind. This is Tim Walz's appointee in charge of the state's accounting and finances, saying they don't have the tools they need.
You view your role as supporting agencies to do their job, but not holding them accountable. Am I understanding that?
Madam Chair, we do not have a tool to hold agencies accountable.
So what would that tool be? What do you need? Because under statute, that is your responsibility for internal controls. So if you don't have the tools and it's yet your statutory responsibility, what do you need?
I want to be clear that when you look at the state statute, subdivision 8 of 16A.057 specifically states that the head of each executive agency is responsible for designing, implementing, and maintaining an effective internal control system within the agency that complies with the requirements of the subdivisions. I know you're asking the question of what do we need to hold agencies accountable? I would view that differently, and that would be to say, what do we need for agencies to be successful?
Okay, I would just like to point out that in statute 16A.057, it says the commissioner, meaning of MMB, is responsible for the system of internal controls across the executive branch. Sub 1, safeguard public funds and assess and assets and minimize incidents of fraud, waste, and abuse. That is the responsibility of the commissioner of MMB.
And Chair Robbins, the way that we do that is by creating a framework for agencies to use and providing support and resources and tools for them to use in order to identify and implement their own internal controls.
And when they fail at that, what do you do?
Go ahead.
Chair Robbins, what we do is step in with support.
Now there's absolutely no wonder why Minnesota was plagued by that Somali fraud. We got the agencies, the folks that are supposed to be holding these agencies, these state agencies accountable when they do find fraud, saying the way they hold them accountable is by providing support. What does that even mean? And you can see that they did not have a clear answer for how they hold these folks accountable right there. They don't have the tools that they need. Was this intentional as well? Governor Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison, did they not provide them with the correct tools to make sure that they could hold these bad actors accountable? Once again, we're seeing that in Minnesota, leadership is just all over the place, and it looks like Somalis have now found a new way to defraud U.S. citizens. Now they're making GoFundMes for quote-unquote emotional damage.
My name is Bashir Hussein. I am a 20-year-old U.S. citizen from Minneapolis, Minnesota. On December 10, 2025, during my lunch break, I was violently arrested by federal immigration agents. I repeatedly told the agents that I am a U.S. citizen and I had my ID and passport. Instead, the agents ignored my pleas and forced me to the ground and placed me in a headlock. The injuries and trauma from that day have stayed with me. Since that incident, I have experienced symptoms of PTSD, intense anxiety in public spaces, panic when I hear whistles, sirens, and car horns, trouble sleeping, constant stress, and emotional exhaustion. I have also experienced ongoing physical pain and tension that started after my detention. I no longer feel safe in my community. My family has been affected by this as much as I have. They watch me come home drained and physically hurt. The fear that this could happen again has created constant stress and has changed our lives. I am raising funds to support my recovery, including trauma-informed mental health therapy and counseling, medical care for stress-related symptoms and physical symptoms, basic living and recovery-related expenses while I focus on healing. If you are able to donate, I am very grateful.
So now that Trump has turned off the quote-unquote child care and daycare facilities in the state of Minnesota, the Somalis, they're turning to scamming liberals. And I bet they're eating it up hook, line, and sinker. They're buying all of this. I mean, this guy's already raised $600 of the $50K that he wants for quote-unquote emotional damage, and I just cannot believe they're getting away with this. This is criminal. You could tell this man is making this all up. He's reading it straight off a script. As a matter of fact, you could tell, you could see it straight through his eyes. He did not shift one time. He's not looking around. It doesn't seem like a real raw human reaction, and you could just tell this is a full-on script that he is reading. And I found another case that's going to blow your mind. This is obviously another fake story for more sympathy. The GoFundMe link hasn't appeared yet, but I'm sure it will soon.
They kidnapped me. They took me. They arrested and detained me for 2 days, and I was put in county jail. ICE came. They came out of their cars. They asked me to see my ID. And while they were asking me to see the ID, that man, he called me the N-word. They pushed me hard. They used a lot of violence. My body still hurts. I got a concussion. It's really hard for me to speak because of that concussion. And I was screaming. I was crying. I was so scared. I've never been arrested in my life. I don't have a criminal record. I have a clean record. I was literal cuffs were put on my legs, cuffs on my hands. And I was actually detained with a Native American woman. And God bless her heart, she went through a lot too. She was also detained by ICE, and she was also a U.S. citizen, and like me. And she had gashes on her face. They shattered her windows. She had blood on her jeans, her corduroy jeans, and she was crying because she was so scared because she was with her dog. She was so scared that her dog got hurt. She was so scared for her life. We were both crying together. We were holding each other tight, and I'll never forget like the fear that we both felt in our hearts that day.
Yo, there we have it, guys. Oh my goodness, this is the missing link right here. This is what we've been looking for. It's all coming down on Fraud Walz and his fraud enterprise. We all knew who was implicated, who was involved throughout this entire thing. You could just tell by the folks who were screaming and hollering the loudest. They're probably the ones that we should be looking the deepest into, and that's exactly what we find. The first fraudster caught said, okay, I'll tell you guys something. Squeals on Governor Tim Walz, squeals on Attorney General Keith Ellison, because she knows they're as crooked as can be. And honestly, usually I would not, take the word of a criminal, someone that's already been convicted, but honestly, what else does she have to lie for? I mean, there's no risk. She's went down. She's already faced her trial. They're not going to give her lesser or lighter sentences because of what she's saying. She simply just wants the truth to get out there, because these fraudsters, they're going to get away with it. The folks in leadership that facilitated this, and we can't allow that to happen. I believe she also felt that way as well. She did not want them to continue to be able to get away with this, or their record to be unblemished, and she remained in jail, taking the fall for all of their actions. I don't blame her one bit, and honestly, I believe her, because you could just tell by the way leadership in Minnesota has been acting. They've been acting very guilty, to say the least. Now it's all coming out. We're getting stories of now Somalis that are making up these emotional damage GoFundMes. I mean, you can't make it up with these folks. It really bothers me how they don't want to make an honest living. They want to scam and scheme their way through life in America. Send them back. I mean, these folks who are taking advantage of Americans, taking advantage of the system. I don't blame President Donald Trump one bit when he says we need to get rid of these individuals in our country, because they're not adding anything to our society. They're not contributing whatsoever. They're just taking away at a massive array, a large scale. I can't wait to see this one all play out. We're going to cover any updates to come right here with your boy RetroStef. Guys, now is the time to hop in that comment section. I'm excited to hear what you guys are thinking about this one. My question for today is, do you believe that Governor Walz is finally going down? Does this really connect Governor Tim Walz? And do you believe this woman from behind bars testifying that Keith Ellison and Governor Tim Walz knew about it all along? Hop in that comment section, guys. Let me know what you're thinking. Also want to give a huge shout out of appreciation to all the folks who made it this far in the video. Really does help out a lot in getting this video further and further out there to more and more individuals, so they can see the truth just like you. Don't be selfish with the stories. Definitely share it out if you guys can. Also, make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd enjoy more content like this coming from your boy RetroStef, I'll catch you guys on the next one. We're out.